Hey, I'm Shy Fox. In this art tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to draw a head and face from scratch. Drawing an oval-like shape and trying to place facial features is really just guessing how the head should look. And if you're anything like me, you'll guess wrong. Practice, of course, would help. But instead of guessing placement and trying to eyeball, I want to teach you a method that gives you a base to work from that's reliable, works at any angle of the head, and so you won't have to question where the features go, you'll know. This method is called the Loomis Method. It's made a huge difference for me switching to this method for drawing. Here's something that I finished sketching recently using it, and also here is something I finished painting and rendering recently as well, using the same method to begin with. So they all kind of start the same way using this method. We'll start with this reference I found on Unsplash and try and draw her. We will start with step 1, which, shockingly, is draw a circle. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can do it in a couple strokes. Perfect. We got a circle. All right, step 2 is going to be draw a line down the face where the nose is. So we can see her face here. Nose line's going to go about there. So we're going to rough that in. Looks good. We're going to call this line A. Next step is to draw a line around the middle of the ball, approximately where the eyebrows would be. Sort of in the middle of the ball. Call that one B. All right, we're going to draw a line around the side of the ball. This is where the ear is intersecting. So if we can imagine, I've kind of got this line here. I'm going to erase this just so it looks simpler for the sketch. So I'm just going to do that. So around the side, approximately there. It's kind of in the same spot we actually had that line, so kind of putting it back. But anyway, so that's going to be line C. Those are your first 3 steps. Draw a circle and divide it into these 3 sections. The next step is to draw a line that drops off the face. Try and angle it with the same angle of the head. She's kind of angled this way, so I'm going to try and maybe even a little more have it come like that. We're going to then divide line A into 4 parts. From the top of the head, here's the first part, to here, and then a 4th part at the bottom. This is going to be your hairline right here. This one right here is going to be your brow line. This is where your nose is, and this is where your chin is. And the lips go 1/3 of the way down between the nose and chin, so we'll go about there. So lips 1/3. The next step is to slice off sides of the head using ovals. Sounds weird, but our heads are not perfectly spherical, so we need to kind of slice off part of it. Just going to erase these parts to show what it should be like. Same with this side. And then where this intersects, make this kind of flat, is where the ear goes. You can think of that as a flat plane, whereas on this side it would be the same. We're not going to draw that in since we can't actually see it. And this gives us placement for the ears. The ears approximately go top of the brow line and meet at the bottom where the nose line is. So that would kind of come around. And make sure not to center it on this line. It goes to the side of this line. In this sort of quadrant here. The next step is to add the chin line in. We're going to start with where line C meets the bottom of the face here and do a little line down there. We're also going to add a bit of a roundness to the bottom of the chin, and we get to connect these parts. You could even use this method to draw heads and faces without even having a reference if you wanted to, if you knew the method well enough. Now we're going to start filling in the features. At this point, I also like to turn down the opacity of this layer so I can draw over top of it.
I don't usually draw straight realism. Usually it's a semi-realistic anime style, like this sketch at the beginning of the video, or the Sailor Moon artwork I showed. But for the sake of the tutorial, we are doing a realistic portrait sketch. I started with the eyes too big, as a result of my usual style, but the great thing about digital art is I'm able to move the features around, adjust size, angle, and placement as I go, using the lasso tool or the liquify tool. As the sketch progressed, you could see I was getting closer and closer to the look of the actual reference. I've seen tutorials before where the artist just nails the reference right from the start, and I always wondered how. And a lot of that comes from practice. But the great thing about digital art is you can move the features around, rotate, resize, adjust without erasing as you go, so that if you're not a seasoned artist, you can still work your way to a more accurate result. So while I feel like this speed paint wasn't the most amazing example of my own skills, I think it's relatable with how wonky it started out. The great thing about the process was I just kept on drawing and adjusting, and over time I saw it improving. A lot of my sketches can start out looking kind of odd or derpy, as I like to call it, and then with some persistence and willingness not to quit, the drawing will get to a place where I can be satisfied with it. When you doubt yourself, just keep drawing. This is so important not to give up before you've made a lot of progress. One thing I find I need to adjust more often than anything is the jawline. That line can make or break how the face looks. Eventually, you'll learn which parts of the face you make a habit of getting wrong, we'll say. Whether it's jawlines are too wide, eyes too far apart, nose is too low on the face, etc. You'll learn to correct yourself. It definitely comes down to practice and knowing your own habits.
Alright, and we're going to call this sketch done. It might not be perfectly done, but this is about 25 minutes in, and I'm good with this enough for the example that we can draw a face from the Loomis method. Now, this tutorial wasn't really on how to draw lips, eyes, nose, that kind of thing. This is more on how to start with something to give you a foundation to go from. So that's what I did here. This method also works from a bunch of different angles. So we can do the same steps and draw a front angle face. Here we have that front angle. We can also do an angle from the side of the face, profile view. Here we have from the side. Let's do one more from a side angle as well. And there is our final head shape in the Loomis method. Sometimes you need to add a little extra head space at the back. This is one of the things that you might have to do depending on the way it's going with yours. Adding a little at the very back of the head can sometimes be necessary. Now it's important to know that adjustments can be made to the base of the head to suit the character you want to draw. For example, when we were drawing this male character, he had a longer chin and bottom of the face than the current one we just drew, where she has a really short chin in comparison. So those adjustments can be made, but the Loomis method as is with these exact sort of proportions and measurements is for a very average looking face that can then be adjusted, which is why when I drew mine, I made a lot of adjustments as I wanted to match it to look like the actual girl I was trying to draw. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, I'd appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. You can also catch me on Twitch, live streaming over there, ShyFox on Twitch. You can also check out my work on Instagram, shyfox.art, and see what kind of portraits and faces I've been drawing over there. Finished, complete ones, not these like rough ones that we did just now, but they'll do to make the points for the teaching. I hope you guys will check out my other tutorials as well, and hope you have a good day. Bye, everybody.